What's up, YouTube? I wanted to get back into a regular cadence for videos, but it's been pretty tough because I'm not so much into gold and silver recently because of the price of where it is, and I've been more focused on shooting sports, so maybe I'll do a little bit of both. One of the main topics that I wanted to talk about was the deficit and debt, because there are a lot of people who comment on my last video where I showed a lot of gold and told me I'm wrong, I'm communist, this and that. And, I wanted to address it mainly because I don't think I'm wrong. Ultimately, many conservative people back in the day in 2016 used to complain about Obama with his $20 trillion deficit, or when it was just under 20 trillion, 18, 19. And here we are at 26, 25 trillion, and nobody bats an eye on the conservative channels, which it's kind of funny because it's not surprising why gold and silver is where it's at, because of the fact that our debt has ballooned and the fact that we're not even trying to hide it. I mean, the money supply has gone up significantly. That said, I've also invested in other areas. So a few months ago, I mentioned that I had money in stock and I took money out. Now, we've recovered, so fortunately, I've been putting money in with my monthly payments, but also with leaving the half that was in there in the sectors that ultimately benefited. And if you bought companies that were specialized in cloud, then you probably made pretty well, like if you stuck with the technology companies. But otherwise, if you stuck with more traditional companies, then those still haven't really recovered yet. So while I was wrong in terms of the market not continuing to go down, it was mainly because of the $6 trillion stimulus package and the handouts to all the different businesses and people out in the country. So I still find it ironic that I'm being called the communist when we're obviously, or the socialist, when we're obviously giving people handouts right now, right? And there's plenty of people with open hands. I don't see anyone turning those payments away right now, Republican or Democrat, right? So it's a bit surprising, but I don't think it's that surprising that the stock market went up when you use credit to pump up the market. That's just the way it is. It's easy to pretend like you have money when you have a credit card and unlimited credit. The problem is long-term debt and how we're actually going to pay for it, because realistically, it has to be paid back, and whoever is going to have to start paying that down is going to get the blame for it, when in reality it's happening right now. Because when you add 6 trillion and we're looking to add another 2.2 trillion pretty soon, or 1.2 trillion, however many trillion, and whatever happens for the next 4 years is going to be pretty troubling. For the most part, I've been focusing on my own investments, my own other avenues of wealth creation or wealth generation revenue streams. And I've been fortunate to finally cross the milestone of becoming a millionaire plus some. And after I got out of gold and silver, fortunately, those other investments actually started to pay off quite significantly. On another plus, these investments that I made pre-COVID just before, it started turning up quite a bit as well, because I'm heavily invested in cloud companies, thanks to my guess on the fact that Trump wouldn't handle it well. And for the most part, that's worked out. Like travel industry is just decimated, hotels, cruises. Those are all struggling businesses, but cloud is doing pretty well. Otherwise, there's not that many businesses that are actually doing well in this environment. And no matter what happens, even if they reopen everything, not a lot of things are going to happen because there's just not enough consumer or consumption. To touch on the COVID-19 aspect of where I might have been wrong, or where some of you think I was wrong, it really depends on where you're located and your environment. Because for me, I thought I was sick, I got sick, I was scared, and I might have been wrong about my own diagnosis, but my cousin contracted it. A family friend contracted it. Her mom passed away when she gave it to her, and then she has permanent lung damage. I also have friends who had other family friends who contracted it and passed away. It was just, it really depends on where you are. If you're in large population dense areas, you're more susceptible. If you're in like very sparse areas with, very limited number of people, then, fine. It's not going to affect you as much. But in my world, it affects me a lot more. Like several of you got tax cuts, I got a tax increase, mainly because of the loss of the SALT deduction, right? Because those things primarily affect the coast more than it does in the Central Valley or the Central U.S. or Southern U.S. It really affects specific groups, and it was targeted that way, which is fine because, when Republicans win, they win, and when Democrats win, they win. But I do feel like the way things are heading or the direction things are going, things will be even more hyper-partisan as they continue to move forward. Since we now distinctly have two different factions, and it's just there's very little agreement across the line. At this point, it's very hard to discuss what's important and what lines can be drawn, or even if there's even compromise. For my own personal circles, I have a lot of friends who support Trump, and we don't agree on certain things, but we agree on a lot of things. And a lot of people like to paint me as some liberal, but I'm more Republican than I am a Democrat. I don't like a lot of things on the Democratic Party, but I really don't like a lot of things that Trump is doing either. And I don't consider Trump a real Republican, in my opinion. I think the Republican Party has definitely changed. As mentioned before, I didn't vote for Obama, and I'll say it again, right? Like, there are a lot of things in the Republican Party that benefit me directly, and especially when it comes to tax cuts, but not in this recent case. On the higher end spectrum, yes, but in this last tax bill, it didn't help me at all. Unfortunately, I'm in no man's land in terms of my net worth, because I don't make enough to qualify for the really good tax cuts that the ultra rich got, but I make enough or not enough to get the lower end tax cut. So actually I'm in the middle where we get taxed the hardest, which kind of sucks, but I don't think anyone will feel sorry for me, and you shouldn't. Ultimately, I don't mind paying taxes because I think paying taxes is American. That funds our police, that funds our military, that funds our roads, it funds our education and schools. It funds a lot of things. So I don't mind paying taxes. But what I do mind is, this notion that Americans shouldn't pay taxes and should keep everything. I don't think that's I don't think it's fair. I think we all have to pay our fair share for the freedoms that we do have, and in maintaining that. And it's really funny to me that all these Republicans who say they don't want to defund the police, they don't want to do this, they don't want to do that, but they don't want to pay taxes either. So how can you pay for police if you don't pay your taxes? Are you saying you don't want to pay for education, but you want to pay for protection? This is where we get into prevention versus reaction, right? It's proactive or reactive. You choose which one you want. Ultimately, society will decide at a later date. We take turns, and it's perfectly fine that things go the way they do. There's an ebb and flow to it. Ultimately, I think the fact that we have a Republican and Democratic Party is the reason why we have democracy, right? And it's not just one person's way or the highway, because otherwise that wouldn't be the definition of a democracy at all, right? The minority can't rule, the majority can't rule. It's up to the people. And we have an electoral college, and everyone gets a turn, everyone gets a chance, but they have to do what they need to do and vote. And I've done that on my end. I'm sure you guys will or have done it on your end, and it's fine. We move along. The next 4 years, I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see if, we consider if Trump wins, or even if Biden wins. I don't think it's going to look good either way. Trump wins, Democrats are going to be pissed. Biden wins, Republicans are going to be pissed, and going to cause trouble for everyone. It doesn't really matter. But if Democrats win, take over the House, take over the Senate, and do the same things the Republicans do, I do think the right wingers, the fanatics, that is, let me correct myself with that, are going to do a lot of extreme things at a different level than Antifa, who have been throwing rocks and breaking windows, right? Like, we've already seen that their plots are a little bit more dark in terms of kidnapping people and doing that sort of things, or killing cops. And keep in mind, I'm talking about the fanatics, right? Like, a lot of GOP folks like to call Antifa and throw that label across on every single liberal. I'm not trying to throw that. I'm just saying extremists are extremists. They're on the right wing side, they're on the left wing side, and everyone else in between, right? He's trying to justify their position, justify their cause, and justify their actions. But in reality, the majority of us aren't those people. But we have to deal with the repercussions of the few. And it's unfortunate because those few end up labeling everyone, because GOP aren't Nazis, but there are Nazis in the GOP, right? Like, the Democrats aren't Antifa, but they're Antifa in the Democrats. So it's actually, they're not. They might not even be affiliated at all. But they tend to, because they're not for the GOP, that they get associated. And same with Nazis or white supremacists, whatever the hell, right? It's just this association. If you're not with us, then you're with the other team, which is, it's so stupid. It really is. Like, politics from before 2016, I never really got into this level. It was just, things you discuss with family and friends, but never so polarized to the point where it is now. It really is dramatic to see how things have become the way they are. I'm sharing one of the comments that I've received recently, and there have been more and more of these. I usually delete them, but I did want to bring it up because, it really is a problem. How can the United States of America be united when we have this kind of shit? Forgive my language, but it really is amazing, and I'm not sure that we're going to recover, especially if Trump is reelected, or even if Biden's reelected. It's just like there's no chance, because nobody wants to compromise at this point. Everyone thinks they're right, and, in a way they are, but because it really depends on your situation. So how do we get out of this? Do you have any ideas? Please let me know in the comment section below, because voting one way or the other, that's not really going to solve anything. It's who's going to bring us together, because I don't think realistically, I don't think Trump wants to bring us together, and I don't think Biden can bring us together. It's just another 4 years of just what we have right now, which is, I don't think it's good. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. And sorry for the ramble, but it's been troubling. Like, I'm really wondering where we're going to be in the macro level over the next few years, because a lot of things that are happening are very short-sighted, but the long term, I'm not sure which direction we're going to go, but it doesn't look like the right direction at this point. Thanks for watching.